Well, that said, please intervene and just like as free as you wish. So the only element that I brought a few objects and elements, but one that you might not see entirely, but I'll show you nevertheless. It's just like I was, say, 16 or 17, and that's the kind of magazine you find out when you go to the barber, or you go to pick up your mother at a hairdresser or the dentist, you know. And if you think that my work is Baroque, that I think is kind of Baroque, imagine, you know, why I've been influenced, you know, this. If you are going to have this studio visit, and these artists must be the most amazing studios with the most amazing imaginations going on. So I was born and raised in this atmosphere, and also I tend to say also that in their bodies are differently, very less indoctrinated. We are among one each other much more freely in many ways. So Brazilians and Brazilians, especially the ones that I can say more, are very say happy to share emotions and to share pleasure among each other. Be confident that you are telling to someone something that is personal and there's no problem. It's just a kind of a cultural topping up. Emotion is there, sometimes too much emotion, but sometimes also is something that helps a lot. And I'm happy that I visit studios today of you coming artists, and always emphasize that whenever you grasp your intentions, it's fine, but that has to come along with your emotions. So imagine when you arrive at the dentist and you find these guys, you know, maybe it's just like, and it's amazing, the whole situation. So if I had to show something that is me in my 15 years old, you know. So I selected a few other images, and I started by one that, as I said, why helped me in my path. 20 years ago I did my degree show, and I was really fortunate that I could come to study again, which is a blessing to anyone. Time to yourself, to make reflections, and I came with one as I was an adult. I was already 45 years old. So it was just a turn in my life, an enormous turn in my life, and of reflection, which was really incredible. But what I wanted to say, and then, the experience of masters also helped me very much. I did 2 masters in London, and both of them in textiles, and this increased and then for the last 20 years I've been working and trying my work as an artist, and I'm trying to show here the things that most helped me. One of it is this, like when I got entrapped and happily entrapped with working with fictional stories. When my work became, when I could understand that instead of making objects, I could enroll them into fictional characters, it helped me a lot, because it gave me the pleasure of being sitting there for hours. My work is very demanding, work-wise, body-wise. And it's beautiful that in Kiosk Show there is Sophia's work that is also debating the problem of how much the body is severed in the condition of to be seated the whole day, to be productive in many ways, and doing embroidery, which is really time consuming. The moment that I negotiated that I was doing that, but also creating a fictional character, it helped me a lot. So fictional stories, present and past. I'll start for the latest one. Is it going to go? It is a 14 meters mural, where I was happy to put together different works that I've exhibited in different situations into one fictional story, which is this one. So people will find out this book and they could open the book and find the story, the ones that were interested in reading it. The important about this mural is that you find the numbers. I'm going to show you the coming images, And the book tells the story and the fiction, the ones that are interested. The book is there to be opened, if you wish, and then the numbers are there, so you can relate to the numbers. And for my work, it also gave me the chance of working with very old fictional stories, and suddenly they they match into one another. There were some stories that I haven't read for a number of years, but I could generated a new fictional story using old elements. So this is something that helped me very, very much. Oh, sorry. You see, so it was called the London Affair, a charm for warning off evil spirits, and it was, I'm very much interested in talismans. I'm now working with talismans and evil spirits and protected spirits. And the important of these images are always the numbers, you facing. This is a witch, Andrea Worthington, and on and on. I'd rather go through the images that might be more interested. But the story is just it's funny, it's not in depth. I mean, there's no footnotes in here, so it's just like, a standard reading, which is easy and comic. Comic is not the right word, but. So this is the book, and the numbers go. Sorry about that. This is a series that I like very much, which are genius in jars, that are entrapped in the jars, when longing someone to release them. And the one that released them, of course, gained something, but they also have temperaments. They are not nice, very, very nice, the guys. My work is mostly hand embroidered, so in there, you see different surfaces. Sometimes I paint on the top of felt or acid dyes. I worked for 20 years before getting to the arts with acid dyes, with painting free, and also I embroidered on the top of painting that I find. So the founding materials and just not obliging myself or respecting. I mean, it's a painting, but it was there left, so I can embroider on the top. This guy is Angel Perez, very nice guy. His story is also very fun. And also, what helped me a lot was the idea of, what helped me very, very much is that when the character comes along with satellite objects. When they are alone on themselves, I like them. But when they come together with the satellite objects that belong to their story, it makes for me, it's not always that I can present that. Sometimes the curatorial space doesn't offer that possibility. Sometimes it's just like a fair or an art fair that the booth doesn't contain my whole story because I tend to talk too much, and there are other artists that are in the same boat. And also, it came to my mind that everything started in 206. By doing this for the first time, I understood that everything started when I presented this work, which is called Maculando Adelpha. Adelpha is this lady, Adelpha Figueiredo, and this is a library. And then we artists were invited to use the space of the library in different ways, and then I got fascinated. Well, it's again the ideas of figures of power, isn't it? This was the name of the lady of the library, and why is she there alone? And Maculanda is maculate, and so I made her really a bitch, like with fictional stories, and pansexual, living in different moments of story of Brazil, and also it was very nice that I photographed the area and informed very much everything, and there was also a book in there, So yeah, so it allows me to work with drawing, allows me to put the drawing into conversations with textiles. I mean, the fictional stories always happening. So that's the work. And that's the curator, that at that point in time he was a young curator, and right now he's far the most, the curator that knows my work the most, and from a long time. And he helped me posing as a neophile, the guys that fuck with dead bodies, no? Because he was in love with that lady that didn't pay attention. It's part of the story, and he is this curator. And last time I exhibited with him in Lisbon, I wanted to continue the story, but he said he was too occupied to. But we always try. That's another series that is called Camafeus e Broches de Reis, Santos e Homens Viados. Cameos and brooches of kings, saints, and diamond. Well, the thing, what united them all is visually, is extension of the body, like auras for saints, antlers for homens viados, and crowns for kings. So crowns for kings, auras for saints, and antlers for homens viados. So a brooch, and that's also our cultural background around these objects, and there they are. There is Al Capone, the king of Brooklyn, and that guy is I can't remember right now. Satan, the king of evil. That's the king of the Western America, and these are emeritus butterfly catchers, and they are all kings, and also using the surfaces and using not only rackets, but these ones belong to the rackets that are when people catch butterflies. That's why they called butterfly emeritus butterfly catchers. There they are. This one is very Brazilian. It's a king from the north of Brazil, very well-known character from the north of Brazil history. That's the king of the travestites in Brazil. Madame Satã, she is called. This is São João, the king of the beheadeds. Another saint. That's the one that is so well praised here in because he was Christianized in Belgium. It's Humbertus, because he was about to kill a deer, and then on the top of the deer he saw a cross, and then he got Christianized and then started. So an homage to Belgium. This is a very famous Brazilian saint, Padre Cícero, and also this one, Damião, the most famous saints of popular culture, Brazilian popular culture. Here they are presented in Frankfurt Costein, and these are homens viados, which is links with one of my most interests, which is masculinity. I've created an anthology that people can find afterwards, which is around masculinity, where I present artists, my own homoerotic, part of my work that is homoerotic, and also other artists that discuss masculinity. And these Homem Viados is an homage of, there's this name for gay guys in Brazil, which is viado, which is the same name for the deer. So I create these neologisms, Homem Viado, and I've made homage from various. Homem Viado from the Mato Grosso do Sul, which is an estate, and this is my friends from Rio de Janeiro. This is Homem Viado do Rio de Janeiro, so he's just there, you know, sitting in there, and next to Corcovado. There they are, you know. This is São Paulo Bienal, and that's the arrangement when you see a good number of them, you know. Some are, well, saints, kings, or dear men. Eh? And it's me myself as a self-portrait, you know. So just like, I mean, no, it's just like I was raised and educated in São Paulo, and people can be very arrogant and go to, you know, don't really want to address anything that would get into more calm discussions about gender or sexuality. So, Homem Viado de São Paulo, signed by myself. Oh, and myself presenting them. This is also Bienal de São Paulo, that if you don't ask any questions, they'll get to talking, then we might find to arrive into the portraits plus that's what I was saying. I think this, for me, when they are presented on their own, they are nice. You're going to see the independent show that we did together in here. Wow, they are nice. But when they come with the satellite works, oof, they gain the life, you know. The satellite objects are just like make the aura of the thing larger, and then when you're in front of the work, you get more, it enhances the meaning of the work, much more than a static, a closed work. No? That's Angel Perez, the work as embroidery is on the top of painting, and that's their satellite objects. He has a very beautiful work, life, short stories. No? This is a parfumier from Iceland. This is, I mean, with a sad story, but nevertheless, I mean, he's there. And this is the first time that enlarged this scenery with two other rackets as backgrounds. And I'm doing this because Veronica asked me to do this shortly, so I'm heading for that off. And these guys, I like them very much. Gay guys that live in northern Portugal, different professions, and that's the objects that go around it. That was shown in Doddston Gallery in New York, and I'm really happy that I put together these works and the objects, you know. Just to say that that object that I don't know how it is, a fork, an enormous wood fork, when I found it in Portugal, I mean, and on the streets I said, do you really want to sell this thing? I mean, look at the beauty, you know, it belonged to his grandfather. And he did it, you know, it's just like... So I'm happy that I put back these objects again in the life of culture. Meet me at the Finger Buffet with the last show I did it was September 2020. Although it was pandemic, there was between COVID 1 and 2, and the show was really well. People visited the work, and it was we really enjoyed it very much. And look at what you can find. You can find a vacant place, but alternatives are there. The guys are not there, but they are supposed to be there because the story runs around them. Especially one of the guys who is Javier. But what you find in the gallery is this. On the top of this, I also brought you for you to have a look, you know. You find this, open objects with open designs, because the whole story was the Erasmus reunion, And Javier that is sitting here. He's not here because he went for a coffee, but he's sitting here next to a friend that is presenting what is going to be served in his finger buffet. So he has to select from snacks, and the textile work was exactly snacks and food. So that's is enormous difference, because if I present this, it might be meaningful, but when it comes along with this idea, it's just like you get entrapped with what is going on. Yeah? And when you get to the storyboard also of Javier, it's again, that's his storyboard and his life, you know. That is the speculoos in that little box that Grandmama had brought him. There is this, I can't tell you the whole story, but it's a very fascinating story that embedded in the life of Belgium and Congo, because he went to Congo, blah, 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 blah. Whoop. And then when you get closer, you know, yeah. Look at him, my God. I mean, it is amazing. And the snacks were served in there, you know, everything so prepared. And why I named here Javier, you're going to discover in it. Because of this image. Look at this cake. Come on. I mean, this is so beautiful. I mean, just, my God, when I saw this, I have to use this image. Look at this cake. So he's named after his cake, after this cake. That's him there in the wall. That's the birthday party. And yeah, that's his story that rounds around sexuality, homosexuality, homoerotism, before then homoerotic, and then Mommy, that was very linked to the royal family. So it's just like entwined stories so that the storyboards could be evocative of stories that each one of us can build it up. And then he ended up in Brazil, discovered Carnival, and it's pretty much what I was saying about not indoctrinated bodies. That's what he says also in his story. No? I tend to say that Europeans are normally very encrypted, and Americans are more like, there is a more of fusion, which is natural in cultures. There's nothing like, you know, there's no value about this, but Javier went to Brazil and he discovered non-indoctrinated body, but for me, it's more engaging when they have, that was a sculpture ego. Very, very how toxic masculinity, really disgusting. Look, the guys again, and the guys again. Storyboards. Yeah, and then what also helped me in my way how to deal with arguments within my work was the presence of storyboards. They have been with me for a long. I've used it in many configurations of work, and it had helped me a lot. And also being back that I've worked with embroidery homework, workshops in prisons in South London, and with men doing embroidery. And the carceral system was, I still work with the ideas of carceral system and masculinity within the carceral system. And also, and from that time also, the importance of having a storyboard next to you. But even everybody has some kind of, even in carceral system, they have a board where one puts personal images, things that are related to your daily life and people you love, or written, or things that are really tender to yourself and you want to have close to you. And so I think it's a very precious thing. This one that I like very much, it is embedded in a show. When I say a show in Mendeswood, you can always relate it to the www.mendeswooddame.org. it's really, they're very well presented. There are all the stories, and they are, I mean, you can go back to exhibitions, and I do a lot of writing also next to the works, and then you can find the writings and everything. So this show was called Three Novels, and it's a story about a narrator with his three ex-lovers, each one with a character and each one that made an impression in his life. So this one is Jonas, that was the photographer. This one is Javier, the other one is Sean. So this presents into the artwork like this. This is the show. So fictional objects, and these were presented here in the show in Brussels, together with Javier's stories. There were 10 different. There was the guests that came to the buffet. Each one had a story on its own and a textile piece. So I think when you leave your eyes lingering and trying to find new stories, new possible stories within the storyboard, for me was very useful. That's why I brought them as a utensil, as an artist that I've been using, and helped me a lot to face the hours that I've been seated and embroidered, that I have really to be steady and not getting involved with too much other doings, because I have to produce work. And the themes that never went out of my consciousness or ways of dealing at the table, from snacks to flower arrangements. And well, I'm presenting the kiosk again, flower tributes, which is not arrangements, but so flowers were always there in a way or another, and the table, snacks, food were always present. Like this, you know. In there you can find spaghetti and souffle and you know, all. Oh, this is pancakes. And then again, we're using old textiles and giving them new shape, and also the objects that are, you know, in there supporting up, thrown away for no money. Nobody respects the textiles. I mean, you can find a number for no price, for nothing. I mean, things that nowadays people are unable to produce because they don't have the spirit in themselves to sit down and produce, you know, again, a tender crochet or whatever. And there are some cottons that are not even more produced because nobody buys them anymore because they are too tiny, and nobody uses because they are not able. Me included, but I mean, it's like the amount of, you know. So food, I like the souffle. That is spaghetti, or using, or using again oil that were there, you know, in the middle of the street for, just thrown away. I just put them in foil and made two. And again, using. And important about the embroidery I produce is just like embroidery. There is an enormous dictionary of embroidery stitches, and I use just one. So it's not about the stitch, although I like very much embroidery and the stitch, but I use just one, which is the easiest one, which is called back stitch, which it's the most common and the most easy one to produce. So everything you see, in all the pieces you've seen, is just back stitch. It's just one simple. Well, sometimes there's not only back stitch. Flowers again. Another series of works. Dyeing materials, I like to dye very much. and as in Verdernog, which is exhibited in kiosk, it is just like artificial flowers that I top up with embroidery. And in these series, they receive prizes, and this is the first prize. This one is finished. I mean, I said here, the guy is, shall we open to questions? Shall we see more images? I have more work to share with you, but...
So do one more?
Yeah? Okay. Oh. Okay. Now next. Oh. Okay. I'm going to this one. Well, we can know. I mean, there are two teams: curating spaces and the social. I'm going to curate the spaces because you guys are ongoing artists. You're already artists, but you know. There we are again. I want you to notice that nobody has already, not even asked a question. Well, so this is to say that one of the things that also helped me a lot, and I discussed today with the people that have studio visit today, is the importance of preparing the space where to show the work. To show the work is something, prepare the space to show the work is something completely different. And I mentioned that you, as a teacher, that I mean every curriculum of art students have to include the more, you know, the tries, the artists going there and try and discuss with their peers, the possibility why to put this together and discuss the space, if it is working for the work, because sometimes they do the work and then when it's shown, the potence gets down instead of getting up, you know. And something that really it's not always that I have the chance, but whenever I have the chance, I negotiate exhibiting the space with curating the space. Like this. I've been working with Mendes with them for the last 8 years, and this was my first show in there. That's the gallery space in São Paulo. The show was called Denominador Comum. And, well, I don't have to go through the work, but although you're going to see, there's being able to prepare the space like this, I mean, enhance the capacity of the works that I have produced immensely, in my understanding. And I know because the people that visited also perceived the space as curated. There's no other word. So there's different words, always with textiles and objects. Papel de parede. This is for, papel de parede is the word for wallpaper. And this is say, if there was a window in my work that helped me a lot, was Bienal de São Paulo 2012, curated by Luis Perez Oramas, Toby Meyer, the guy that was sitting with the rose, and I had this really large space because it was to accommodate two large curtains, French curtains, which it's one of the series of work that I do, so that they had to locate the French curtains, and about 10 years of work in terms of different series of work, so to accommodate everything. So I used the idea of the wallpaper with something that you can also find in kiosk, but this comes from that time on. So this is the space. And I always mention today that I always find it very important. This is not the case right now, but is just like the presence of place where you can sit. And I can tell you, well, sorry guys. If you go like this. Oh, you see the table and the guys there. And for example, here on the right, the presence of things, places where people can sit and be there and, you know, be at ease to watch the work. Actually, I met Laila Melchior for the first time sitting in this table talking to me when her master's teacher brought her from Rio de Janeiro to get to know the space, and we sit together and talk about the work. And what is the artifice that I used that you might find in detail? The artifice that I used was this artifice, which is nails. In this case it was horse nails, not the nails that you see in here, and then trim it and created something that united the space. And so when you get in, you see the whole space united with this pattern that appear in different things. This is also vernacular of the prison. You see, you find. So I'm trying to enhance your wish so that the more you design a space to receive your work, the most you can get from it. That are one of the curtains that were in there. So French curtains with machine and hand embroidery, wood and hand embroidery. That's the other one. And then people going through, you know. Students, this was the students that were having their class of free drawing with a friend of mine. So whenever your eyes can linger within different surfaces, the better for the work, instead of, you know, just arrive there and there's just that surface. Cozinha para Gás, pagan kitchen, cozinha for kitchen. It's a work that I like very much because it was a very industrial space. It was not industrial, it's a modernist space for these modernist architectures. And the curator asked me if I could invade the kitchen. And the kitchen was so sanitized. And you might have seen I'm very Baroque and come from a family that is very religious in terms of saints and, you know, memorabilia. And then that place, when I got in, I said, no, it's not possible. I have to do something. And it was really severely with no light. But then I thought it was more important to make it pagan. And so I selected other elements or objects that are related to Masons and Masonry and pagan mystic rites. And this is the result. So again, a lot of meat and salt. And in this case, I've shared the work with a guy that did the lighting. Sergio Fornari, a good friend, that otherwise it was so obscure. Nothing would work with the light that was in that space, or other than being artificial light, indirect. And here's some images of, I normally go and select the work, the object that I tend to work with the work. In there, I select these objects and things just to show the way you work. from the, I tend to collect things from the streets, and then, but they're not as, say, cabinet de curiosité, not like this. It's just like they are there to get into stories, so then I select the ones that are hanging over. Objetos estranhos, ensaio de proto-escultura. This also, it was the third time that I was offered in Portugal the possibility to get into the museum's objects and put them into, and show them, display them. And I also build up, so I select all the works within memorabilia of different arenas, popular culture, contemporary artist, popular artist, and put them together into this display. So again, curating the space to be presented. And my work was based on these nails that you see in here in kiosk, but yeah, that same one. I did a tiny one for the children to play. And loads of images that people could go and show them. So about the cultural aspects, you're going to see it. So that's and the other one was the large one. Flowers of Mars is this series of work of drawings, and then I put them large into. And you could select things, and that's the curator, Nuno Faria. And also this, the entry, I prepared also the videos, so you could come into the gallery. It's not a gallery space, it's a big institution called Centro de Arte de Guimarães, Centro Internacional de Arte José de Guimarães, SEASC, in Guimarães, which is not Portugal, 45 minutes from Porto. And that's another work that I presented. A bancarrota também bankrupt. Also, again, in Faro, south of Portugal, the possibility of using objects that are in there, there, seated and not interested. This museum was, very rarely visited. And the thing that they had in stock to be shown were amazing. But if there is not an arrangement or a new arrangement, impossible. My work, but I had whole liberty to present also things that are drawn and they're never going to be recovered. Centros Figurados is another one, also where I first I designed the whole spaces and present this series of a good number of works that is based on topping up artificial flowers and basketry. Three novels that I mentioned. There are these three guys that I also invaded the bench, and I embroidered homoerotic figures on the top of the bench. And again, the presence of places where one can sit and rest and deal with objects and deal with things instead of going to a gallery, finding something not to do. Guest is coming to dinner, another show that I had the chance to design the whole thing. Very nice, a story. That's LA. Friedman and Fitzpatrick Gallery, in a very nice place in LA because it was in the middle of a mall, next to 7-Eleven, it's just a really very interesting place to be. And the beers, like, if you're in Belgium and not present, with beers, you're really out of your mind. Rivera's Bags, Scarves and Alps was also a show that I did in Mendelswood, and I designed this space which I called, it is an Airbnb in the Alps. And it was related with one fictional story which was there waiting for the story to develop, but the other works were arranged accordingly. And also the shots. And that's it, guys. You know, 2 entries that I think were vital for me in terms of curating the space, and fictional characters for me helped a lot because gave me the chance to, you know, to be seated there, you know, and be patient, that I know that there is a percentage of the time spent there that will echo in the works and echo in the substance of the work more than anything else. Is there any question?
Yes, after an exhibition, when you find all these objects and stuff, like after the exhibition, do you keep everything? Do you?
Yeah. So
everything goes back to your house?
And most of them go directly to the gallery that I work with. I mean, for example, I can use Kiosk. They've already arrived here in a number, and they're going out, thankfully not to my home, which is tiny, so to the gallery. And then, but it's not, I mean, and always I divide. For example, that one that I first showed, that was the one that ran the whole wall, 12 wall. There were pieces in there that was from my own. It helped me, and it still did not belong to any character. But when they belong to the character, like Javier, for example, that guy, with a storyboard, the work is the thing. It's not.
I've seen these 2 objects. In the first part, you had a lot of portraits on the rackets.
Yeah.
Tennis or badminton rackets. I'm very curious about, because I know you used found objects. I also saw the food in trays, but somehow the rackets and the brooms, the cleaning brooms, are also part of the installations. I'm just curious to know what does this symbolize, or is there some idea also for these portraits to have on these rackets?
Well, it all came out of London, where I used to live, and it was a time after I graduated, a long period just looking for jobs, and I did some projects that brought me some money, but I worked in bars and as everybody else. And then, but I lived in a room with a table, so the racket helped me. To produce in a tiny space, and then to save them more than anything else. And I think probably was just to save the possibility to engage to work and not be worried to where to stop them. And because they were interested and they were beautiful themselves, as old rackets. I mean, they were really amazingly done with the wood and everything. So, and since my debate is also masculinity, it is like tennis. Well, no, it was always diffused, but it's kind of for toxic masculinity is very much into the showing as a sport, and it's an elitist sport in a way or another. So I was just curious, and I'm not very handy. Some can say that. I don't know very much. I don't know how to nail things, and I'm not very handy, and I get in trouble with electricity. Well, I'm not very handy. And then, so I always try to find things that have a hole where I can, top up the embroidery, and then that's the solution. Just to help me with a few things that I know to retain that and then go on. So things all together. a tiny space to produce. Well, fair enough, better than anything. And then collecting from the in London, which I lived a long time, and I was really like religious. Every Saturday and every Sunday, going to the flea markets and trying to sort out these beautiful objects where I could invest in them with little money that I had, and I work with these PVCs that are not expensive in a way, and the PVC also helps very much the embroidery to sustain. When you do the stitch, it's not wobbly, because when you have to work with things that are wobbly, it's more tiring to do the embroidery. Whereas if you work in a PVC or different materials, the stitch comes and it's already very rigid.
A question about the structure of the narrative.
Can you say that again?
About the structure of the narrative or the composition of the narrative. Like you work very based around narratives, and then you have these images that you use in this narrative. I'm wondering, do you start with a narrative and then look for images to place in, or do you have all these images and objects and then the narrative starts by itself?
Yeah, I think altogether, what I really have in stock is a very large, selection of images, black and white or color, that I pick up in old magazines, and mercilessly, so I just took them out, and then so I have this imaginative, I have a visual background where to come. So when I have the opportunity, like a show that is coming, and I know more or less what is the narrative will be, I go back to them and use them. I create stories within those archives. Mm-hmm. So I have archives of images, selected images from old books, from magazines that are really merciless, and I save them. So I go through them. And the narratives are very simple narratives and say very direct. And also I've been interested for the last 8 years in crime novels. And I do the reading at 10 o'clock to 12. And normally I come together with a pen, and then I've underlined sentences that are amazing sentences, but there are types of sentences also. I have a collection of sentences that, maybe this character will be able to be in domain of these sentences. So, archives. Mm-hmm. Archives of images, archives of narratives, and the chance to, now I'm going to do this show. It's very orientative. I just like, I don't, the chance. And now I also tend to be back to series of works, which also helpful. I saw some works, when I went to be back to Kings and Saints, I just drop one more into that conversation. If this last work that I did in Brussels with the mural of Trump, the story has not ended. This story, So this story has not ended. So I can, for the coming show, and that's the continuation of this story. So I'm more happy that I can continue. If that is needed. Right now I'm really submerged into the talismans, especially the ones that are erected phallus that belong to Pompeii and Olympia, which are used in their culture and in many other cultures, are warnings for evil spirits. And they are not, they're just like there in front of their houses as statues for warning evil spirits and bring luck. As in Brazil, we've got a very nice one, which is also the phallus, which is, it's in there very much in all culture, which is a figure like this, fig, we call it, figure. And I'm interested in this.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Do you have like certain criteria when you pick up objects from the street? Like how do you make a decision to pick something or leave it?
Yeah, I do.
What
I'm really trained. Like I can observe and select. I just invest in what in English is called trifles. Trifles are the thing that have the least importance, and objects that are really uninteresting and really popular and really meaningful. Why? Because sometimes you see that there was so much touched. That's the importance for me. The objects that was so much tender to someone, like cards or like objects in general. And I'm very much into tacky. You know what is tacky? Hangar. I like all what is hangar in general. Baroque, hangar. I think it's I think this is the three items. I'm always looking for trifles. Trifles where you see that they were used and cared, and they bring the life of the people among them, the touch. And you can, as I said, I'm trained, so I can, from seeing. And in here, my God, I live in Brussels, but Brussels, it's a mine, my God. Just a jeu de balle, my God. This is, and I've heard it is all, the Belgian all over. It's just like bricolage, and it's just like, or not bricolage, it's like, flea markets is so common and so and the beauty of jeu de balle, I think, it's just that it's run by Muslims. And they haven't got any contact with that cultural pieces. And they ask, what is this? They don't have in their houses. They really, what is this? and there's open boxes and boxes of things, of memorabilia. And the lovely thing that I was discussing today with one of the students is that people that save everything. From a single pin to a single, everything. And when you have the chance of being there the day that they open that for the first time, you see the house entirely. The kitchen, the garage, everything. And they save everything. Portuguese do the same too. But Belgians are. So I'm in the middle of the mind. Although, to tell the truth, I'm avoiding. I'm trying to change myself also, and I'm trying to avoid to go to these places. I have enough material to invest, and I'm more interested in to recharge the ones that I've already selected. But at least in Brussels, I think it's the most charming place, and it's Jeu de Balle from the whole city. I think there is no comparison with, where are we going to Beaux-Arts? Just like, come on. Just like, and there is so much information, so much about the life of people. It's amazing in there. And the guys that run in there, they have no cultural thing. Then they negotiate because of the price, so it's not because of the, they are not at all attached with those things, at all. And they not even belong to their culture. They don't have those things in their houses. They have other things that they do not negotiate in there. You can't see a single item of Muslim household in there, not even a single. It's just like Belgium backgrounds and Belgians, Belgians old ladies and people that die alone, which is fair enough. And not all of us have that destiny of dying next to beloved ones. So people die alone, and they're there. So I think trifles is the most important, embedded with this charm to against evil spirits. That's why I like things that have charm. And you look, you said, oh my God. They are so horrendous. I said, oh my God, that's so nice, because it's so horrendous. which I'm really fascinated. So I try to. That's what I buy. And they have to be cheap. Yeah, I mean, price-wise, if it's not cheap, I don't buy. I negotiate also to the top.
Is the creation of your embroidery like a free process, or you go based on a plan, you make first the drawing, or it's based on an image or something like a photo? Like the drawing you made of yourself with the boards, you made first the drawing? Where you
that one, since it was a self-portrait, it was a roommate, which is a roommate that's an incredible artist, which is Daniel. I said, oh, please Daniel, sit and make one. And then he knew that I was exploring the antlers, because there is an enormous difference between horns and antlers. Horns are for the bad guys. And antlers, they are beloved in past culture for they are benevolence. They do the good things. But trying to answer your question, yes, there is a design behind. The PVC that I work, you can see through. So I shape already the drawing within the shape of, and then I make a very single. Let me see. Like he's using it. No, it's not.
But you also choose the colors on beforehand a little bit, or you go more try?
When the drawing is there and the PVC surface is there, naked, there's a drawing. I just fill up, and then I take day by day when the work is increasing, and I tend to say that the importance. I talked today with another artist within here, and the importance of preserve. I mean, I was not trained in the arts. My BA was in anthropology. I did my secondary school and third school and university with not a single art lesson. So the only thing that came to my destiny was copying things, and transfer things from copy things. And I was, the only one in the class that would present the work with a design in front, but I had to copy it, looking at Modigliani, or I don't know, I had to have a face or something that I would, or copy directly, like, it's the only way, and then completing with colors. And I do this, and I'm senior right now, so it's just like, but I'm more in domain. I call my design Flintstones, because it's very Flintstones, but now I'm in domain, so I'm happy with my design. I'm happy when I see the grace of the design, because I've been working with it for the last 20 years, so it's just like I'm more in domain of the thing, but it's a very easy transfer thing, and then I top up with colors, and that I invest in threads. Today I saw work that I comment that, I think the thread didn't help very much the work. And there are so much beautiful threads. The variety is enormous, and then, so with threads you can also enhance enormously the work.
Any other questions?
And I save things, Simon. I save things also from the bar. You guys can also do it. This thing was so trashed, my God. And I had one in my life, but you can always make some embroidery and save things on the top of your old things, your granny things, instead before going to things.
You said you gave workshops to prisoners about masculinity. I was curious what you do with them and what their reaction was.
Yeah. The other one was the social. One day I come back and talk about the social, because I did various workshops in different arenas. And I always follow the same workshop pattern, which is, first is to, of course, present ourselves. The beautiful thing about the project in Etisan is that I had money and they had money. I would never ask a prisoner to work for me in the name of the arts, because what they receive in society from the arts is nothing. So the project was based on me having money and they having money, but the workshop process is just like first the drawing sessions, very easy going. I taught primary school for 6 years, so and the Flintstone drawing and the other drawings came from these ability to do with kids. So I run say 3 times drawing sessions, then three sessions of embroidery sessions, and then everything was responsible if they want to receive the money. No? Of course, you can give it up, but if you want to engage and make it seen, they had to produce an A3 sheet with a drawing that tells the story of their lives in the prison. That was called Prison Speech Project, and it was presented in the prison. I was able to bring artists and the prisoners into the space that I designed again, together with an artist, but it was just for 3 hours because in terms of security, the prisoners could not get out from the prison more than 3 hours to this space where the officers eat. So, and I did it with scavengers in the streets, and I did it to enhance capacity of embroidery ladies in fashion labels in Brazil. Every time it's the same procedure. Enhancing the drawing because people have this idea, I don't know how to draw. Oh really? So let's try. And then, enhancing the drawing, knowing about embroidery and get it in the context of the material that I've selected, PVCs, more bulky. I prefer to work with bulky material stuff, bulky cloth, because the stitch comes easier, and especially in the prison you cannot bring metal or whatever, so we had to improvise the way to open it. But it was an amazing project. Really very beautiful. And it was presented in Crafts Council, and the curator that presented, it was a show that was called Boy Who Sew. I think we were 8 or 10 artists, and she selected my prison work instead of my studio work. And also I produced, and they were able, in this project, they were able to produce photographs. I have a camera. So they were the photographer, a photograph, professional photograph, just to talk about photographs. And then they always had a camera that they would produce anytime, at any moment, photographs and videos. And I then edited the photographs and the videos. So the show was shown with their work, Prison Speech Project, with their stories and their narratives and A3 for a narrative shape. And the videos that I've edited, which are really nice. And then I ended up actually working academically with 2 other pages talking about homoerotica and relations of men to one another in the prison system.
Right, so we leave it here and we go have a drink. What do you think, Fernando?
I think it's the best thing we can do. And thank you so much for coming. And really thank